I'm Yvonne Hamoud, registered social worker and owner of New Moon Counseling, but out of the office, I'm a mom, wife, daughter, sister, and friend. Join me each week as I sit with a special guest to discuss everyday things that impact our mental health. We'll be chatting about everything from mental health and relationships to media and current events, as well as personal experiences and reflections, all in the hopes of normalizing our humanness and helping you see that you're not alone. This is Outside the Therapy Room. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Outside the Therapy Room. Bethany is back.
Hello, I'm back.
You're back. We
Me
say you're
again.
back every time you come in. It's so
Yeah.
fun. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if some of our listeners remember, but a few episodes ago, we had Destiny come in and talk to us about the 7 different kinds of rest. And from that episode, a lot of questions came up of, why is it so hard for some people to rest? For some other people, it's very easy to kind of rest. But I think kind of the common thing I hear both in and outside the therapy room is, I don't have time to rest, or I can't rest, or it becomes difficult to even think about resting. So that is our topic for today. Why is it so hard for us to rest, Bethany?
Yeah, good question. This is something that I've seen a lot as well, both inside and outside the therapy room too, because I think rest is so severely tied to this productivity culture that we've really grown into. It's a capitalist idea in terms of we should always be productive, and that productivity directly leads to our sense of self-worth even. Right? We don't feel like we're doing a good job if we're not being productive. And so rest really feels like it's taking away from our ability to feel good. And I think that that's a really difficult pattern that we kind of get ourselves into, the point where we feel a lot of intense negative feelings when we're resting. Therefore, we would rather just not rest. Right? I hear that so often in terms of like, the thought that I'm lazy is way harder to manage than getting up and doing the laundry. Right? And yet we really need that rest. We need that balance and the ability to do both. So I think we've really grown into it. I see it a lot on TikTok. Like, it's a very trendy thing to not rest, to be productive, to wake up at 6 a.m, to reorganize our fridges. Like, there's all those videos of setting up for the week and meal prep and cleaning and making your bed in like this very aesthetically pleasing way. And we love how it looks and result incredible. And yet it's really pushing the same thing that capitalist culture is pushing, which is rest is bad. We are better people, more worthy people when we're busy, when we're clean, when we're not taking a break. So
and I think you brought up social media. I think there's also a lot of comparison, because we're like, we have the same 24 hours in our day than that person does, and they accomplished all of these things. And so kind of, again, that signal of like, well, if they can do it, what does it mean that I can't, or that I'm not doing it? And it can impact our self-worth.
That's right. And it just brought me to this video that has been kind of circling around of this guy who, he's waking up at like 3 a.m, getting up on his balcony, he's doing push-ups, he's drinking sparkling water. Like, love that for him. And yet it's going off that idea. We all have the same 24 hours. So here's how I'm using it. And if you're not, then that's on you. And I think it kind of really connects to that culture of like, being rich is something you get if you work incredibly hard. And it's, it's most ironic when we hear that from like Kim Kardashian. Like, does anybody know how to run a freaking business? Right? It's like, it doesn't directly correlate, especially in the economy we have. Waking up at 2 a.m, working constantly will not correlate with being able to afford your groceries, will not correlate with being able to buy a house. Right? So I think we're often tricked into these ideas, probably coming from the things that we want or even the things that we need in our life. And yet it's not the same. It's not the same comparison that we're making. And it's a really maybe even privileged perspective to be able to say, well, you would have this incredible like billionaire life if you just woke up at 2 a.m. No, probably not.
Yeah.
I personally would need a major nap.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't it Kim Kardashian who did say, like, you know, wake up and work kind of mentality? And I think it kind of feeds into this need to be productive all the time. And as we know, as therapists, and me personally, like, that eventually leads to burnout. Your body's like, hello, you're running me on overdrive. So sometimes we get really sick, or something, our body forces us to take a break in a time that's probably very inconvenient to us. But there is this culture of like, be productive, make sure you're using every minute of your day to be doing something.
Because that will give you success. And it's just not true. Like, Kim Kardashian is not the person that should be speaking to like meritocracy. Like, no, it doesn't correlate. It's not fair. So absolutely. And I think burnout is huge. I think as therapists, like, we're maybe even lucky in terms of how much we talk about balance in our, you know, master's program, in our workplace. Balance is really, really key. Like, being able to show up to work and be focused, and using our mind as kind of our tool, right? We don't use computers. We are present focused, and that's how we're able to work with our clients. That really relies on coming from a place of feeling able to be present. I'm not tired, I'm not hungry, I'm able to sit and listen to the clients that I have. And if I can't, I'm actually not able to do my job. Right? I talked to my supervisor about this too. It's like, there could be the perspective of working many, many hours, seeing many, many clients. And yet, if I was doing that on a full-time or more than full-time basis, I do not see myself staying in this field for more than 2 years. You can't. It's not about, we need to be focusing on that sustainability. As opposed to this hustle, incredible amounts of work, and then the likelihood of burning out within weeks or months.
And also, which version of you is your last client getting in a day that you see 8 clients in a row, right?
Exactly,
like, the first client versus the second client, like, you just don't have the same mental and emotional bandwidth for that. And that is important too in our lives, right? Like, when we rest, we have more capacity to be able to deal with all of the things that we have to do, whether that's parenting, you know, being a support person, a care person for somebody, getting your work done, like all of those things. When we are able to rest, it is our body's way of refueling, of recharging, so that we can be present in the way that we want to be for other things. Show
up with the energy that you would need. It's like, I think that's the thing about rest, is rest and productivity are actually very tied. That they're actually working towards the same goal as opposed to against each other. Right? I think we're always taught like rest is laziness, and so you have to be productive. And yet when we're students, the number one thing we're told, like, it's really hard to proofread or add more to your paper when you've been working on it for 6 hours. Right? Taking that rest, the step away, brings in the fresh mind to be able to do the work. This is something I even learned in like cognitive therapy in my undergrad, was when you're cramming for a test, for example, you will actually perform better if you just go to bed. If you just sleep, wake up the next day, because then at least you'll be able to kind of have your logical mind intact. You're not going to do a lot of memorization throughout the night, get up and go to the test. It's better for you to take the rest, wake up, have breakfast, review the material, and go. Like, you will actually do better on the test in that way. So it's, that to me proves like the rest plus the productivity have to go together. They work towards the same thing.
Yeah, they definitely do. I think with like on an additional kind of thing, it's also hustle culture. And every hobby now is becoming like, you can make money off of that. Like, and that's just so much too. And it is like that sense of productivity for a reward, which like in this, you know, economical climate that we're in right now, I get it. Like,
it makes
we
sense.
Want to make money, but also like at what cost to you, and especially when it's with when we're burning out or when we're extending ourselves too thin. When you mention laziness, I often, when there's clients or when even I'm being hard on myself and really pushing myself to kind of go and be more productive and do more, I'm always curious about how does the word laziness actually show up in our vocabulary and where did it come from? I know from a lot of like sessions and even, you know, with friends that I have, it's always like, I have to do all of these things. And it's like, well, why? What was it like for you as a kiddo? Did you get a chance to rest? Like, did your parents give you permission to just watch cartoons on Sunday? Or was there always something that you could be doing? And I know for like some families, it's, well, if you're sitting and you're not doing anything, find something to do. There's chores that can be done around the house. There's homework that can be done. Like there's all of these things, and those are important responsibilities to teach your kids, but so is them taking a break or wanting to have a couple of hours to watch cartoons or to read or to just lay and not do anything. Because a lot of, as we've talked about so often, a lot of that, those internal thoughts or beliefs that we have do come from our experiences as kids.
Right. And then it makes sense that they grow up as adults and say, well, I don't want to rest. Because if rest is bringing the feeling that maybe your mom told you that you were lazy.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble.
I get it, right? Yeah. Like we totally get it. It's not coming from the perspective like, just take a break, right? Like, it's easier said than done, but really coming from this perspective of what has been added to your mental understanding of what a break really is, because that will color whether you even enjoy it or not.
Right.
I think it's also really important to notice too, the things that we encourage our kids to do in rest. Watch some cartoons, do something crafty, get outside and enjoy the sunshine, right? Those are the things that we would encourage someone to do if they were experiencing symptoms of depression, right? Those creative pieces, the ability to sit and enjoy something, even if it's like for me, laying down in bed Sunday morning, watching Below Deck. And I'm going to do that until 2 p.m. sometimes because that's what feels right for me. But to do that with the air of I should be doing something else. This is lazy. This is a bad use of my time off. That's when I would hate it. I would not want to spend time doing it. And then I'm taking away the things that I do to actively maintain my mental wellness.
Right. It's like a form of self-care.
And they're the first things to go, right? Especially those creative pieces. Like that's what I talk to clients about a lot in the winter in terms of like, we stop doing our crochet projects. We stop playing with clay outside, that kind of thing, right? Like I think summer is great to kind of bring out our creative sides, but these are the things that disappear when we're experiencing low mood. And so we want them to be neutralized or positive in terms of how can they make us feel and how are they in terms of using our time, and be a part of our habits, a part of our routine. Because thinking in the depths of winter, for example, how much are you going to want to reach for the art project that you gave up on 6 months ago? You're not. But if it's a part of your daily routine, you might do it.
Yeah. In the episode with Destiny about the 7 different types of rest, we talked a little bit about scheduling in rest, but and that can be something that's helpful that you do to like, you know, Sunday morning from this time to this time, I'm going to be focusing on rest. And that's either watching Below Deck, doing a crafty project at the same time, or going out for a walk, doing something that is actually going to help recharge you. And so sometimes scheduling in the rest can be helpful. But one other thing I wanted to say, for some people, it can be really uncomfortable to rest because that means for some people, it's like, now I'm not doing anything. And so now is when my body and my mind is just going to be filled with all of the feelings, all of the anxieties, all of these thoughts that I've had throughout the day. And so sometimes it's uncomfortable to really stop being productive because there's a form of avoidance that's happening from constantly being busy.
The thoughts that don't come up when we're like really distracted.
Yeah. So it's like a form of distraction. And so I think, you know, for folks who are maybe finding that they are productive as a form of avoidance or distraction, like what kind of suggestions or tools would you give them when resting could be probably really uncomfortable?
Good question. I like that. I think first I would define what can rest actually look like, right? We're kind of just using the word rest here.
Yeah.
Rest doesn't have to look like sitting down and staring at the ceiling, right? Terrifying for someone that has a lot of rushing thoughts that come in during like physical, emotional pause. That is terrifying. The way that I would think about it is very similar to the kind of fear ladder that we have in cognitive behavior therapy. Think of it in terms of exposure therapy as let's start integrating rest in little tiny pieces.
Yeah.
Let's not make it absolute idle rest, but something that feels somewhat restful. Can you integrate in your morning shower a minute within your shower where you're not doing anything? Maybe you turn the water even to cold, right? Having cold water rushing over you, that's going to kind of help your sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system have that reboot moment. So physiologically, it will allow you to have the feeling of kind of like a breath of fresh air. 1 minute within a shower is going to be a really good way to start integrating little tiny bits and pieces into rest. In that minute, can you just focus on how it feels to have the water running on your back? Can you take a look at your fingers and see if they got a little wrinkly in the shower? Can you think about what time you want to go to bed today, right? Little tiny things, and they're not necessarily the same as a distraction, right? They're still focused on yourself, but they're not leading to the complete abyss, black hole of thoughts into what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is terrible. This is lazy. This is bad.
Right.
Then move into bigger bits and pieces. Maybe one day you can start taking a bath. And maybe in the bath, you explicitly have a moment where you don't do anything. You take 5 minutes. Maybe if you're experiencing a lot of these thoughts with rest, and this is probably better out of the bath in terms of like paper, write down those thoughts. Write down what's repeating every time you take a rest, and take a look at those thoughts, and we'll try and integrate some self-compassion, right? If a friend said to you, I feel exhausted, I need a minute to myself, would you say that is a terrible and awful and disgusting idea? No, you'd be a bad friend. So saying it to yourself, getting in the practice of, I need to be my best cheerleader. I need to encourage myself to do the things that let me feel rejuvenated. That's where I'd kind of go. And that was a very long statement.
I love it because it incorporates being present.
Yes.
And grounding yourself, like even the shower, cold water on you, are my fingers wrinkly? What can I smell? And do I smell my shampoo? Like all of these things, that is a way for your body to get rest without it feeling so overwhelming, because it's a minute. So I did a minute in the morning. Is there a way I can do a minute in the afternoon? And even just acknowledging like my body is feeling tired, or my brain is feeling tired. I've been, focusing on this essay or on this report or looking at spreadsheets all day. Do I maybe need a little bit of a break? Can I go for a walk? Can I do these things? And so, while it can be really overwhelming to kind of imagine taking a rest as in laying down and staring at the ceiling and all of the thoughts. Yeah,
and just being completely calm. Like, I actually don't know anyone that does that.
Me neither. I mean, for folks that like meditation, like I guess that can be a form of it, but it's like that's also
a practice. Yeah.
It's a huge practice, one that I'm still practicing, but
I'm not.
For some people
I can't do it.
Right. Like,
and I'm just not drawn to it.
Yeah.
But that means that rest looks different for me. Rest for me, my hands are always busy, right? Because if I'm resting, I'm a huge nail biter. So if I'm just watching my show, I'm probably biting my nails. And I don't really like that as my form of rest.
Yeah.
Rest for me is doing some beading while I'm watching the show that I'm watching.
Yeah.
Or I have my cat beside me, so I'm petting her while I'm watching what I'm watching. Or I made a snack, right? So rest doesn't have to look like complete idle nothing.
Exactly.
But can look like time that's focused on yourself, doing something you love to do, things in your hands, something distracting, right? Like watching a show is an appropriate time to rest because your thoughts don't have to be that internal difficulty. But being present and watching that show, that's going to be the difficulty, right? Same thing with like mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah.
The present focus is the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some barriers to rest can also be some of those emotions that come up in those moments. So the shame, the guilt, the fear of falling behind, and like, oh, if I do take a break, then the whole business is going to just like crumble, and that's not necessarily true. So sometimes in those moments it is helpful to just gently challenge those thoughts. Where are they coming from? Why am I feeling such strong guilt or shame for wanting to take a break? And just being able to kind of reflect a little bit on those strong emotions that come in that can be a barrier to like taking a break or refueling ourselves.
And I think that comes up a lot too for parents or people that have a household, right? They're constantly feeling that sense of, if I'm not doing chores, if I'm not quickly wiping the counters down when I see it, I'm not going to do it, and then mess will be made, right? We kind of go into that catastrophizing way of like, I am a cog in this machine, I have to keep it moving. And I think that idea is kind of catastrophizing chores. It's kind of saying my goal for chores is to like race them, to constantly be moving, to having them all be done. Who can honestly say that like chores have all been done, laundry's all been done, and it stayed that way for a week? It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I go to is like laundry. It's by nature cyclical. It's always happening. Why? We're always wearing clothes, most of us, some of us. Right? So to think of it as this like race, this end zone to being done, then I'll rest, we're never going to hit that. Instead, treating it as this cycle. There's always going to be dishes in the kitchen because we're always eating. That makes sense. There's always going to be laundry in the laundry basket because we wore clothes and went to work today. That makes sense, right? To notice that chores are happening and you're not ahead of them logically actually does not align with how chores work. Mess is always being made. So cleaning can always be done in terms of where is there time and space to do it. But that sense of urgency, that like rush, that race mentality of it has to be done now is coming from this need to feel completely caught up. And yet we can ask anyone, tell me the time when you felt completely caught up, when everything was done. What did that feel like? Oh, maybe we've never seen that before. We're racing for something that doesn't really exist.
And that race, that like feeling is a lot of anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like the anxiety for just wanting to be caught up, for wanting to be done. And it is kind of changing that maybe the expectation that it needs to look this way for me to be completely done with this chore, when, as you pointed out, it's unrealistic. That's not ever going to exist. Yeah. Something that we talked about in Destiny's episode was what actually counts as rest. And I think you kind of brought that up in, you know, having those small moments be rest, like in the shower, taking a bath. And so with rest, it's not just sleep. There are so many different types of rest that we talked about in the episode with Destiny. And some of those types of rest are mental, emotional, physical, sensory, social, and creative. And so sometimes we might find that we're feeling the need to rest, or we're feeling drained, or even just asking ourselves, like, what indicators does my body give me to like that I'm needing rest? Kind of like a car, the gas light comes on when you need to refuel. Similar to that, being aware of like what signs like is my body giving me that I'm needing a rest, and what kind of rest am I looking at? Because we've been talking a lot about kind of watching a show, and that can be a really good physical rest, right? You're sitting there, you're watching, depending on what your brain is doing while you're watching the show. it can also be mental rest, but sometimes it's not.
Sometimes
if you're
it's
sitting
not.
there
Yeah.
and you're like, I could be doing this, or I
Right.
could be doing that, or when the show is done in 30 minutes, I have to do this, this, and this. Like,
Right. It's kind of like that doom scrolling, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're laying down, we're on our phone, but we are so busy in our head that we're probably actually using more energy.
yeah, or we're being triggered by what we're
Yeah.
seeing constantly. Yeah.
Like we're consuming a lot of media all the time.
Yeah.
So it can actually bring the thoughts and make them even worse, right? I think what you're describing, like being able to notice when the gaslight comes on, like that's actually a practice in and of itself,
Yeah.
where we have probably grown into really, really being able to ignore those signals, right? So an example that I have is like, if you're really hungry, but you're used to being hungry at work, your body is going to kind of stop reminding you that you're hungry.
Right.
So sometimes that might happen for me where I'm like still just going, and then I'll be like, why am I dizzy? Why do I feel absolutely ill? Well, I haven't eaten, right? So it's being able to be attuned to those signals first, then we'll be able to kind of act on them.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of getting to the point of dizzy, having the scheduled rest within my schedule, or I just said schedule twice, but like having the rest within my schedule in
Yeah.
terms of, you know, at work for me, that looks like our 50-minute session. So I have 10 minutes in between. I'm not doing notes. I'm not, you know, trying to get ahead. I might go and use the washroom, sit, might look at my phone quickly, but maybe it's a good time to stretch my shoulders, kind of wiggle my body, see what feels, you know, needed, come into the staff room and grab a little snack, because that's what I need to go into the next session, right? And being able to kind of work through what your needs are and being individual about it comes from the process of not ignoring the gaslight, because we've gotten really, really good at that too.
Yeah, which is a way that our body is biologically trying to keep us safe. I think
Yes.
when
Yeah.
when our body is dealing with stress, it's naturally going to shut off our hunger cues,
Yep.
our need to go to the washroom, like all of those things, because we need to survive that thing.
Yeah, we're in absolute fight or flight.
Yeah. And so when we've been ignoring some of those cues because we're wanting to get through it, once we're out of that place, if we're at work and we're just so busy focused on whatever the thing is on our computer, and then we get off of work, suddenly all of our cues are getting turned back on.
All
We're
at the
like,
same time.
I'm starving. I have to go pee. I'm so thirsty. Like I didn't notice my
wanna
mouth
cry.
was so dry.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm ready to
exhausted.
fall. Or why am I crying right now?
Yeah,
You might
just
not
jumping
even,
right into it. Yeah.
you might not even realize it, but that's a natural thing that your body does when it's feeling so much stress. So it's being able to recognize, is your body living through chronic stress in that moment? Like again, trying to be a little bit more observant as to like after that moment, like every time I'm done work, I'm starving.
Yeah.
Why? Well, I haven't eaten since breakfast.
So
and
that
it's
makes
4
sense
o'clock.
for you.
So
Yeah.
this makes sense.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
can I add a break? Where can I make sure that I'm fueling my body? If I'm really busy and I'm really focused on that, something that helps alleviate my stress is to finish that so I can leave at 5 o'clock and not need to worry about work, then is there a snack I can have while I'm working?
Yeah.
So being able to, again, recognize those those moments that our body's trying to let us know something's going on.
And if you're having a really hard time noticing the signals, how can you integrate them into your schedule first? Then your body will start to say, okay, if she's always taking a 15-minute break at 11:30, then I know that's a good time to tell her body that she has to use the washroom as well.
Yeah.
Right? Your body will learn if you're proactive about kind of integrating those breaks. So if you're kind of saying, well, my body's kind of stopped the signals entirely, so why would I bother snacking because I don't feel hungry? Snack first, then decide, oh, I think before I ate that snack, I was hungry.
Right.
Now your body will be able to say, okay, if snacks are available, then I might start telling her when she's hungry. I might start saying it 15 minutes earlier to say like, oh, I could do with a little snack.
Yeah.
Long before she starts to feel dizzy.
Yeah. And just pausing, like something from the previous episode on rest was setting like a timer at work.
Yeah.
Right? If you work like a regular 9 to 5 and you have like a hour break in between, maybe that hour in between doesn't always get taken, like it's not always used as a lunch. But maybe you can sprinkle 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and you set that timer on your phone. So when it rings, it's like, okay, break time.
And non-optional.
Non-optional, even through studying. Like I tell a lot of my students who I see here as like, if you're studying or if you're writing an essay, put like standing creative rests, right? Like, you know, 15 minutes every 2 hours or every hour and a half, whatever. Just when that rings, finish your thought, finish your sentence, and then go outside. Stretch your legs. Let your eyes look at something besides the screen.
That's a big thing too, yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of give yourself that rest and then see what comes up afterwards. Like creative rest, it can be like a walk and suddenly we're like, oh my gosh, I just got so many more ideas for what I want to write in this essay.
Like I thought about how I could fix that paragraph, right?
Yeah.
So much better than sitting and staring at it. It's just
and getting frustrated.
It's not how our brain works, right?
Exactly.
It's going to kind of not be able to bring up ideas because we're so stressed. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I would invite you, our listeners, to just reflect on what does rest mean to you? What does it look like? And what gets in the way of it? And responsibilities, excuses, expectations, all of those things will probably come up. But trying to see, is there 15 minutes, 10 minutes, a minute that I can add to my morning routine, to my middle of the day routine, whatever it is, to be able to kind of start practicing, at least being aware of where my body is needing rest, or how like charged am I in terms of like battery charge? Like, am I at 20%? Because if my phone's at 20%, I'm plugging it in.
Right.
So same. If I am at 20%, what do I need to do to recharge in that moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
I mean, kind of going off of what you said, like now is a good time to experience rest. The sun has helped a lot of us in terms of our emotions and feeling a little bit better and on top of things. So now is a really, really good time to integrate it, right? We're feeling a little bit better. Now is when we can start the routine of it all. The 15-minute walk a day, if that's something that you feel you can manage. Now's the time. It's beautiful outside. Enjoy how it feels to just like close your eyes and have the sun on your face, right? That's what rest can look like. So I'm just like, I'm almost just more inspired by the idea of taking rest when it's nice outside. So see it as like an easy entry. This is the good time to get started, as opposed to like deep, dark winter. Nobody wants to put their boots on to go for a walk. No offense to people that walk.
But how can you, like right now, as you build it into a routine, how can you continue it during those colder months that will eventually be here, unfortunately? But like going out for a walk, I don't like the cold. So I'm not going to be going for a walk in the cold, but maybe that means I can eventually transfer that into something I can do inside the house. So I love that. Let the summertime and the season kind of inspire you to find ways to just be with yourself and rest.
Love that.
Well, I hope everyone at least takes 1 minute of rest sometime this week. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Bethany, for being here again.
Always a pleasure.
Well, we will see you in our next episode, and I think we have a couple more, and then we will be wrapping up for the season. So thanks so much for listening to our episode, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Outside the Therapy Room. This podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you reside in Ontario and are interested in working with one of our therapists, please visit our website in the show notes. If you reside outside of Ontario, a quick Google search or search through Psychology Today will help you find a therapist near you.